When Qatar was bidding to host the 2022 World Cup, the plan, despite summer temperatures regularly over 40 centigrade, was to hold the tournament in June and July as usual. And they promised the most technologically sophisticated stadiums to cope with it. Even so, FIFA balked at the prospect, then turned the global football calendar upside down and shifted Qatar 2022 to November and December. Nevertheless, the afternoon games may still feature conditions of 25 to 30 degrees, and in the future, Qatar plans to use these venues for much more of the year. So, the question becomes, how do you air condition a stadium? Air conditioning is, in fact, the last line of defense against the heat. Qatar's stadiums deploy all the passive forms of cooling that any hot weather architecture uses. First, the stadiums have been carefully oriented on their east-west axis to allow for the movement of the sun over Qatar and to create the maximum amount of shade on the pitch and in the stands. Second, colour schemes matter. The Al Bayat Stadium, whose facade takes the shape of a Bedouin tent, was initially going to be black. Stunning, but intensely heat-absorbent. The stadium has been built in white, which has dropped the pitch temperature by around 5 degrees centigrade. Third, the stadiums are designed to not let the heat in the first place. The surfaces and shapes of their external facades have been designed to reflect heat and divert the warming winds. And fourth, most of Qatar's new stadiums have retractable roofs. When closed, these considerably improve the efficiency of cooling process, meaning that the water and energy usage needed for the air conditioning systems will not be overburdened. But in the heat of Qatar, all of this will only take you so far. Bring on the air conditioning. And of course, all air conditioning systems require power. Electric power to run the pumps and fans that move air and water in refrigeration and cooling systems, and power as electricity or heat that is used to run the refrigeration systems themselves. Qatar stadiums use both. At the Khalifa International Stadium, for example, photovoltaic panels on the roof generate electricity that powers the motors of huge dual compressor chillers. The stadium also draws on systems of distinct cooling in which centrally chilled water is piped to the stadium and then used to cool the air inside. However, most of the cooling work at Qatar 2022 is being done by extraordinary, expensive, and energy-hungry machines called absorption chillers. Amazingly, they use the energy stored in water superheated by solar power to chill a separate circuit of water. The cooled water is then pumped through a set of heat exchange pipes, which cool air. The cool air is then blown by solar-powered fans through large pitch-side nozzles set into the walls at the front of the stands, and through grills beneath the seats. Behind the seats are another set of grills that suck the air back into the air conditioning system, where it is filtered and cleaned of dust and microbes before being cooled down again and sent out into the stadium. Now, of course, none of this is particularly groundbreaking, but Qatar has also invested in a decade's worth of research in fluid dynamics, examining the airflows in stadium spaces and in the creation of sensor systems that allow an incredibly detailed and accurate picture of the movement of air and changes in temperature to be built up. On the basis of this work, the angle and speed of air movement have been very precisely calibrated to maximize cooling and minimize discomfort for spectators, and designed to create just a thin layer of cooled air around them rather than cooling the whole stadium space. Seats and other fixtures have been designed with materials that absorb and store as little heat as possible, making the task of keeping them cool easier. And generously, Qatar has chosen not to patent those innovations, offering them to any nation that would like to use them. And as climate change drives global temperature rises and heat waves become more frequent, there should be plenty of takers. Whether they would be able to afford the immense investment in solar technologies, district cooling, and high-end chillers that all this requires, however, remains to be seen. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Daniel Taylor, Ollie Kay, Amy Lawrence, and Rafa Honigstein. There are journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.